there, it's Phil Ratcliff with Rebel Financial, and hope you are having a good week in this hot summer. I think it's going to cool down a little bit, so hopefully you'll have an awesome weekend. Hopefully you had a spectacular 4th of July. We all got the opportunity to celebrate our independence, and as well as grilling out, hopefully touch base with the fact that we're happy to be free, even if not everybody's always happy about what's going on. We still have a great country, great countrymen, and a lot of freedom. So let's get into the subject for today, which is building wealth, right from the beginning. So building those good habits that are going to help you get off to a good start. Or if you're watching this and you're trying to get some ideas for your kids, or your even as they get older, teenagers and into college, this is the foundation of where wealth comes from, mixed kind of with what are the new things that you can use to help you do this better and easier and faster. So let's dig in. So first and foremost, I'm just gonna kind of lecture just a little bit to say, what is the outline of what we're talking about? And this is something that has, I wouldn't say been perfected, but maybe close to it, probably over thousands of years now. And so the first number one thing about doing well and building wealth is that you must live within your means. And so what we mean by that is generally in our day and age, you work and you produce a certain amount of income, or you have some income sources from somewhere, and then you have needs, which are expenses because we have to pay for the things that we need. And you cannot have that second number higher than the first number, or it will, however it is off, at some point lead to catastrophic failure as the debt overwhelms a person. So first and foremost, you have to live within your means of how much you make, minus what we got to pay in taxes, minus what we got to pay in expenses, and hopefully we come out with a positive number, because that is going to be one of the only ways, or at least statistically significant, for a good outcome for you of coming out with a good end state. So the second thing is, if we are kind of starting not just straight from scratch to where you don't have any debt or savings or what so, for most people, they are starting out in debt. And so we have to get out of that debt. And how do we do that efficiently? And people ask us all the time, can't I use debt to get ahead? And while theoretically possible, and even for some really savvy business people or what so, sometimes it's even a good strategy, for most of us, debt is not going to help you. You don't want debt. The only one that most people should have are probably a mortgage until they can pay their house off, which does take us, a decade or two when you're at the beginning of your career, or for some reason you had to start over. And then building up emergency reserves. Emergency reserves are having that cash savings to lean on when bad things happen, because so many times we hear people, well, this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and this happened to me, and that's why I haven't been able to get ahead and why I'm in debt. Well, did you have any savings? No. So you are basically living on the knife edge, expecting everything good to happen in your life, which is not going to happen for almost anyone. You have to be like the luckiest person in the world. And so we have to anticipate that this is how life is. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to have setbacks, and you need to be prepared for it with your own savings to be able to take care of that without compounding the problem with debt on top of that. And then after you kind of master these things, then you're going to start building up money, in which it's not living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just for short-term emergency things and stability of that money. You need to grow it so that money can start to work for you. And as you've heard, compounding or exponential growth of things can be super powerful, and you need to take advantage of that. And then again, as you continue to be successful, as we see when we're helping people, one of the most powerful things that people don't do well is making sure you're using the right tax preferences, and then taking advantage of them as much as you are able to, with balancing out living for today versus saving and being smart for tomorrow. And so those are pretty much the steps. And then the last one on the cake is kind of like when you have any good process, you've got to come back around and you got to stick to it through the years. And as you are more successful, you'll you'll face different challenges, but it will pretty much come back to that circle again. So that is our outline. That is what we're going to talk about. And it sounds simple. Even like when I talk to people about how we invest and what's the smartest, kind of highest probability way to invest, and people are like, that doesn't sound that difficult. And really, no, it's not. The difficult problem is that you have to execute it consistently and almost flawlessly for not just years, but decades. And so that's what you're going to need to do with your life, is you have to build the habits to make this a consistent behavior throughout your life. That is what will make it really powerful. Okay, so number one, we're going to go down to living within your means. And so it's really simple for most people. I mean, most people aren't trust fund babies that have all these different sources of income coming in. It's, you probably have a job, right? Maybe somebody gives you some money or helps you out with something, but your job is probably going to be your main income source. Or if you're not to that point, you're still in college, then maybe it's your parents giving you money, or you even using some of your student loans to live off of. And so you need to really figure out how much of that are you going to use for income. And if you are living off loans, you need to cut that living expense as low as possible, because it's going to come back around to bite you when we need to pay those off. So first of all, understanding, just write down on a piece of paper, what's my income? And then we can think about what are going to be your taxes. So if you aren't making very much or no income, then you may not have any tax burden, and the government could even be giving you a credit back. But for most people, once you start making money, part of that's going to go to Uncle Sam and your state government, your local government. So we got to minus that part out. If you're paying for benefits like your health insurance, etc., you got to minus that part out. Then we get down to what are your expenses. You need to figure this out so that you know exactly what it is, especially if you're having problems. If you have any kind of high interest debt, so credit cards, personal loans, hopefully nobody has payday loans that's watching this, but if you do, you need to break that cycle immediately. Don't use it. But if you have that, that means that either you do have a problem of overspending, or there was some problem in the past that we don't have the emergencies. We need to understand exactly where that comes from, and then we need to get to where there are savings. So how much money do we have left over? Living within your means is the number one critical step, and if you're not, something has to change. You have to look in the mirror and say, listen, this is my fault. Regardless if there's something external, or you or your family's had a hard time, or whatever, it matters. You're a person. You matter as a person, but it does not matter in terms of you fixing this problem, okay? So you got to get out of debt and live cash flow positive. And so, like I said in the beginning, financing people's future is only borrowing from the future at generally a super high cost for most people, because that compounding or that exponential works against you. It's like a ball and chain holding you down from being able to reach your full potential. So we need to get out of debt. You know, one thing that we're a Dave Ramsey partner. If you have been struggling with why you're in the situation you are, why it's happened to you multiple times, how to get out of debt, and to really have a structure, you know, really just Google Dave Ramsey, and, you know, even for just a short read, just read Total Money Makeover, and just do that. Just do what he says, and it will help you a lot. He has a lot more in-depth programs if you want to get into it more, but at a minimum, do that. And I think one of the most important things that people a lot of times will come to us like, what are these awesome tricks that I can use? You know, the number one personal thing that's going to help you is accepting personal responsibility for where you are and how you got there, and that you're going to make sacrifices to fix it and not be there anymore. And so you have to do that. So check out those couple books. Now we're going to dive into screen sharing, kind of more meat and potatoes of what we're looking at here. So hopefully you can see my screen up on here. We have a lot of tools that we use, and generally I'm going to use the ones that we have. Obviously there are other ones out there that you can use from mint.com. You can even just Google, you know, budgeting or spending tracking. Some banks and Credit card companies are offering different tools out there. So again, I'd rather you not have a credit card, but if your bank offers you something and you're just not in a position to where you can join forces with someone like us, then there are some freemium tools, but they may be data mining you, so just FYI. So when our clients log into here, one of the things that we help them track is net worth. But I'm going to skip to that. I'm going to get to that in a second. But first, I just want to dig down into the spending stuff. And so, with technology having really progressed the last 20 years, there's great online tools to help you. And so we provide this to all of our clients automatically. And if they link, their checking and savings, and if there is a credit card, again, for most people, I don't think it's a good idea. But for some people that are just really disciplined, later on you can use some of those credit cards and get the points and benefits and miles. For most people, that's a gimmick. You're going to pay way more in interest than what those benefits are worth. So you're better off to kind of steer clear. So again, some of these example John Doe accounts and so they may be way different than your situation. Just take it in stride in terms of how it works. But basically, all that data kind of imports into here, and then it helps to auto categorize it. For some people, if they spend a lot of write checks or so, there's going to be unclassified stuff into here that you'll have to classify it. But we've been strategically working little bit by little bit to make this better and better, so that it does a lot of the work for our clients. And once you have this into here, then you can go look at different time frames of this month, last quarter, last year, last 6 months, this whole year, last year. Let me compare last year to the year before that. And you can actually see trends. So, just kind of looking at that, if we look back at this demo accounts, then we can see, what they spend on the whole year. And so, this is very important because spending inevitably is behavior. Is how are you using your resources? And if there is something wrong or something you don't like or something that's just not going to work because you're not having that positive cash flow to be able to save and to get ahead, you've got to identify it and really figure out what are you willing to change. And so this one's kind of built out already inside of here. And again, it may be way higher than where you're at. Again, this is just a demo account. But you can add in, like say in this tool, different categories. And as you actually spend over the month, you can log in. Say like on your phone, our mobile app works really good, and you can click into the spending and just track it wherever you are. If you're sitting in a waiting room or at the airport waiting for a plane or whatever the case, you can keep up with it and see when your budget's getting out of hand. And over time, you may not necessarily need to do this forever, but over time, you're going to train yourself to have that behavior, to live within your means, and when you go over, you know exactly when you did it and why. But over time, you're going to build those habits to where you may not be needed to be on top of this all the time because you're going to naturally do it. But at first, if you are having cash flow negatives and you're not sure why, you need to figure it out. And if you're a person that'll splurge unless you get this data right in your face to say, well, you're $125 over this month, or you're $500 over this month, and you need to see that so that you can change that behavior and build it over time. So anyways, this is a great tool to where you can really figure out you as a person and kind of model that to where you can make the numbers and how you live your life actually come together to where you can be successful and your life will get easier over time. Another thing that's really important that I mentioned kind of again is, what does this lead to? This leads to you building your net worth over time. So like on our little portal, anytime anybody logs in, this is kind of front and center, net worth. But net worth is important. Now, a lot of people don't understand that. What net worth is everything you own minus everything you owe, okay? And so net worth can grow multiple ways, not just from saving. That's how most people think. Or when people come to us because they want us to help them with their investments, they think, oh, it's the investments growing. So those are two ways, right? You can save more, you can grow the money that you have into more, and that will increase your net worth. But also, if you're starting out earlier in your life and you've got to pay down those student loans and credit cards and that is also increasing your net worth. So, whether somebody's earlier in their kind of wealth journey or whether later on, if you are doing good things, and we help people to try to optimize that and do better, but your net worth should be increasing all the time, okay? And so, like, we give people different reports in here that they can run to see that. And let me just give you an example. Here's a balance sheet, and it helps to kind of see exactly what we were talking about in terms of net worth building. So, you know, this is a couple, John and Jane Doe. So the things that each one of them own individually and the things that they own together, and you put it all together minus what they owe on their mortgage and a little bit on their credit card, and you can see what their net worth is right there, okay? And then you can see it visually down here as well. So this is really what you're looking for. And then over time, to see if you're doing well, you can either have some tools like we give our clients, or you can just keep track of it yourself on a piece of paper or an Excel sheet, but just kind of looking at net worth over time and like tracking it out in terms of, this is just a short-term one, again, for one of our long-term clients. You can see it for a long time, but how much is the debt going down and how much are the assets going up? And again, this is just a demo accounts of the investments and what's aren't necessarily growing inside here, but that is what you're going for with all of this happening. Okay, so with that, once you get these simple goals down, okay, so living within your means, paying down the debt, you need to have the emergency reserves. So what is an emergency reserve? An emergency reserve is the minimum that you need liquid, that you're not trying to grow that much. You just need it safe. You need to be able to get at it. It's not something you go buy a new couch from or that you take a vacation from. This is a separate account from your other savings that are going to be for short or even long-term goals. Your emergency reserves is what you need to have all the time. And so it is going to be a little bit different for different people. So you're going to need somewhere between 2 months to a year's worth of your expenses. And the difference between the range is going to be how secure you feel in your income. So if you're in a really safe job where you have tenure and you can't get fired, then you could, as long as you're comfortable with it, be at the shorter term of things. If you're an entrepreneur or a person that works for 100% commission and your income really goes up and down and you're not so sure about it, or you're in an industry that you don't feel very confident about and they've been laying people off and you could be in that mix, then you should be more at the longer side of things. And then there's just some personal preference in terms of how kind of conservative you are with how much reserves you have in there. Because there's obviously, the more you keep in cash, it's generally not going to grow faster than inflation. And so it is a drag on you being able to grow your money once you get that habit down. So for most people, it's going to be somewhere around 3 to 4 months worth of expenses, just to give you an FYI on that. So let's go back to screen sharing. And I'm going to show you another tool that we have that's actually newer. And this one is our Financial Freedom. This is through a secondary financial planning software that we allow our clients to use called Money Guide Pro. And this really just kind of walks people through. And it's a really good kind of goal planner. So you can pop into here, you know, what's the income, what do you expect that to change by, and then, you know, what debts do you have, so we can pop in the credit cards here, you know, to say, I've got this Visa, I've got this Discover, here's the interest rates, here's how much, you know, I can pay towards all of that. And then we can go to the next thing and say, yes, I have, you know, here's one student loan, here's my second student loan, here's the interest rates on them, here's what I have to pay minimally. Again, this one is kind of, it is not super sophisticated, but this is all people really need to really get a good plan to get ahead. And so this person, we said they got $1,000 set aside for emergencies. They need at a minimum $2,500 per month. And at first, we just want them to get to having 1 month, okay? Now, again, the long term for the emergency reserve might be 4 or 5 months, but for the short term, we just need to get them to where they're not going to run up extra credit card debt, okay? And so now it's going to say, are there any other ones? So we put in a vacation. You know, ideally, we'd like to try to get to where we have $3,500 a year. That may or may not happen based on cash flow and how much we have to save, but that is the goal. And then we can punch into here if there's a 401k through work or a full 3B if you're a teacher, or if you're doing a Roth IRA, we can add all of those into here. Again, I'm not going to make this one that complicated. Then it's going to take a risk tolerance just to see, you know, how comfortable you are with the ups and downs of your long-term investments. But again, we're trying to make this simple. And so basically with this, then you can play with this tool and say, well, what if I paid more or less? Or, you know, after I'm done paying off this, then I want to make sure that the emergency fund is up high enough. And, you know, once that's paid off, then, you know, pay off the college loans more aggressively, or do the vacation and then have the extra money that I don't need for vacation go to college loans. And so you can see this here. And I'm going to kind of just skip ahead. It's got an optimize tab, but I'm just going to skip ahead to, this is the cool thing, because you can look here, and let's see if the one that we kind of built that we liked, that I think is kind of the most optimal. It's saying, all right, we're going to max out the Discover card, and as soon as that's paid off, then we're going to max out paying off that Visa card, and then we're going to make sure that we're topped off on here. And then we're just paying the regular payment on the student loans. The interest rate's not that high, so we're going to kind of pay them off on time. Then we're going to get that vacation going. And then extra money can go towards saving for the retirement. And you get this kind of thing of when everything's going to be paid off here. You know, for this person, it's 2024, and then extra money can go into long-term savings here. So again, for most people, they just need this kind of 2-year plan, and then you can actually go back into that play zone anytime that you want to, and say, well, you know, I got this bonus, or I got this raise, let me apply it to this. How does that cascade down towards where I'm going to be? And so this is a pretty cool tool that people can use to really get themselves on the right track. So, you know, first of all, get some kind of thing to help you track money. You know, mint.com, or you can join forces with a financial planning company like us, use our software. And then you need to say, you know, how do I most efficiently get out of debt? Okay? And this is going to take time, especially if you've gotten into debt. Then generally you're going to have to dig down for a year or two to get out of debt and maybe sacrifice a little bit. But then after that, you're going to have that, you know, proverbial monkey off your back, and that cash flow can go forward to either get you out some of that midterm debt, that student loan stuff, so that you'll be free for the future. Make sure that your emergency reserves is, you know, higher than what we did just mentally, so you didn't have to run up that credit card debt again, and then start getting things into, you know, longer term things that are going to grow a lot more for you, like your retirement funds. And so using tax preferences when we start getting there is to say, you know, I've got a 401k at work, should be Roth or pre-tax. Now again, when we're setting all these up and we help our clients prioritize, if there's a match on your 401ks or what, so you need to do the minimum for that. But once we get the high interest rate stuff going and you've got your emergency fund where it should be, then you need to pump those things up. We tell most people your goal should be to get to 10 to 15% for your long-term retirement savings. I'm going to leave you with this kind of rule has really been a super guiding light for me and a lot of our clients, and it is just a nugget of gold, is 50, 30, 20, okay? And so when you are organizing your life, so to buy a house or figure out how much rent and your student loan repayment that's going to be into there, you know, everything that you're going to have to spend year after year for more than a year, these are your must-have things, okay? And it should never be more than 50% of what you make. And that includes taxes. So taxes plus the things you must have should fit into that 50% category. And then the 30% is your want category. So taking vacations or saving extra into retirement if you wanted to retire earlier than, you know, 66 to 70, because that's in there. There's just going to be normal retirement age right there for most people. If you wanted to, you know, buy, you know, extra clothes and car than the utility, that could go into the want category. But, you know, probably the best piece of advice that anyone can give you is for your want category, really make that go more towards spending money on things that will create memories for you. A lot of psychological research, you know, basically says people are much happier creating memories than they are buying stuff. Okay, so sometimes if you're not feeling totally fulfilled in your life or what, so we fill that void by buying gadgets and different things that we think might be good for us, but it's very short-lived versus the experiences that you have with people that you care about. So just an FYI, that is probably the best use of your 30% category. And you should always at least save 20%. So whether that's into your retirement accounts, or into making extra mortgage payments to your house, or even into an investment account or a stock purchase plan that's not retirement related, but that is for the future, where you're going to get that interest growing, but it's more than 5 to 10 years into the future, not just for short-term consumption. Short-term consumption where you're just saving up a little bit to go to a vacation and you're just going to spend it up and down, nope, that is part of your regular spending. That's not actual saving. So anyways, I hope this helps you. There's a whole lot packaged into here, but really the takeaways: live within your means, get out of debt, build up that emergency reserves, start saving into things that are going to grow your money at hopefully at least 2 times inflation, and then talk to people from a tax advisor, or even an older person that you respect, or get a financial advisor or planning firm like us to help you take care of tax advantages and hopefully to grow your money, and then stick to it. Be disciplined. This is the thing that's going to make you different from a lot of the people that know these things in these little books that are guru oriented, is to build in the habits to make it a lifelong thing for you, and you'll be very successful, and money will work for you instead of against you, and not be a big stressor. And something like 70 to 80% of divorces are caused by financial stress from one way or another. So you're more likely to be happier and stay together. And divorce itself is one of the biggest net worth decreasers of any life event that can happen to you. That happens often, obviously. So pay yourself first. Save. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. Comment below. We're always here to help. We got free chat on our website. And keep giving yourself a raise. I mean, a lot of people, they're struggling because where they are, but hopefully you're going to go through your career, and if you are behind and that 20% savings just won't work for you, then as soon as you get a bonus or a raise, remember to inordinately pay yourself first. So increase your savings a lot more than just increasing your standard of living, and that is, for a lot of people, a more palatable way to get to where you need to be. So join us next week. We got a great show coming on. We're going to have Michelle Jones with Life Care Alliance. Excited to speak with her, give you guys a good intro on what they're doing. And then the week after that, we're going to have Michael Lunt on with Parasol Media, and we try to mix around a lot of different subjects, from financial to actual life planning, to when you're looking at a business, or even if you are doing something on the side, how can you market that better? How can you leverage it better? Because there are tons of opportunities out there for us, not just necessarily working for the big companies, and that may be more of the future too. So learning some of these things of how to run a business and get your name out there, your product, or even helping a family or friend do that can be amazingly rewarding. So again, hope you guys had a super 4th of July. If you ever need anything, have questions, let us know. If you're interested in kind of trying out some of the things that I demoed here for you, we do have a 30-day free trial as well too. Feel free to give us a ring, or just click on it on our website. So have a super weekend, and we will see you next week.